Hello, it's me, Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor BS Busters. In this video, I will be talking about, essentially speaking, how I feel that some of the criticism of Cyberpunk 2077 is warranted. Plus, I'm going to add some of my own. But then there are others that are essentially just hyperbolic gesturing or selective memory loss from the people who are making these complaints. So without much ado, I'll basically go against the latter first. I'll get what I feel the illegitimate complaints out of the way first, or at least the major complaint that I basically find to be illegitimate with in regards to this game. So without much ado, let's get into it after the cut. So, one of the big issues that you hear about Cyberpunk 2077 is people saying, this is the most buggy, glitchiest game ever, it's unacceptable. Now, I will agree that this game being released in the state it's in for PS4 and Xbox One and lower spec builds, unacceptable. Completely unfucking acceptable. And last time I checked, 41% of the people who bought this game bought it for the PlayStation 4. So, that is, that's a lot of people who bought this game for the PS4. So with that being said, you're going to ask, well, what's your feeling on it, Mr. Red Fox? How do you feel about it? I'm going to tell you how I feel about it. I think that this game... there are some real issues with this game, but for people who say that this is the most buggy, glitchy game released of this console gen, no, not by a long shot. Now, right now, you're going to see footage of me playing this game, and it is janky as fuck. All right, it stalls out. And here's the thing, spec-wise, my PC can run this game at damn near the highest settings. The only thing I can't do on my rig is run it with what's it called? Run it with RTX, because I don't have an RTX capable graphics card. But aside from that, I can totally run this game. So, believe me when I say that there's some issues here, alright? But despite all of that, let's talk about what's really going on here. What's the real problem with this game? But before we do, let's debunk some of those false dichotomies that people are saying. The first one, this is the most buggy game released this gen. Okay. At best, we can call this game a cross-gen game. At worst, it's a last-gen game that was ported over to next-gen. Alright? PC was the lead platform, so PC is always going to be ahead of consoles in terms of specs. So, just get that out the way. But let's talk about some of the other games that came out this gen that were worse at launch than this game right now. The Division. Anyone remember that game? Anyone remember how that game had entire saves being corrupted, where people could lose all their game progress? Or how the game was so buggy and glitchy that literally people weren't able to play the game's missions? Like, basically, the coding for that game was so bad that if you played it for longer than 30 minutes, you would start having memory errors where it would crash, or the gaming world wouldn't load, and you would fall through the floor for eternity. It's like, people have very selective memories about buggy, glitchy games releasing during various console gens. Now, I'm going to keep it real. This game has a lot of problems, but I never fell through the floor or had an area fail to load for me. Now, I know that may be an issue for other people, but I can only go by what I experienced playing the game on my PC. And I have not had that issue. So, let's knock that out the way. But let's look at another game that launched this gen in a deplorable state. And as a matter of fact, is still kind of fucked even now. Anyone here ever heard of Fallout 76? Yeah. Now, let's remember Fallout 76, okay? This game released in a state that I would call, what's the word I'm looking for? Deplorable. Okay. Bethesda released this game in a deplorable state. Enemies weren't loading into the game. Missions weren't being triggered. Or, you know, because you were on one universal server for an instance, missions would be done by other people, and then you just have to wait for it to reload. Basically, this and here's the worst thing, okay? Basically, the engine that Bethesda uses to make their games, the Creation engine or the Luminous engine, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is basically just a fancy name for the NetImmerse engine, okay? The NetImmerse engine is an engine that was used to create MMOs, okay? It was designed to be able to handle a lot of inputs on a server so that it wouldn't crash. So think about this. Bethesda released a game made in an engine that is designed to be used on a server with multiple people doing actions on that server, and the engine was created so that you know, things done in a server-based game like an MMO or, you know, something that's on a server and has a lot of inputs from different players and different locations, different ports coming through, doesn't crash. They made a game that is incapable of using the engine that its sole purpose was to be used for MMOs. All right. So when people tell me that this is it's deplorable, it's the most broken game ever. Really? What the fuck have you been playing? Or seen being played? You know, I don't want to just make the assumption that it's just you. So that's just kind of laughable to me when people say that. Like, I am legitimately just like, for real? You're going to say that? For real? Okay. But that's my own personal opinion. I could in fact be wrong. So with that being said, let's talk about another game that launched in a deplorable state and has not been fixed yet. Well, let's get back to Fallout 4. Okay, so CD Projekt Red released this game. It's made using their own engine, and it's kind of janky. But you know, they said, you know what, we will fix this. All right. You know, we will work on this and make this into a better game. Now, let's look at CD Projekt Red's record for doing this for different games, okay? The first Witcher came out, and it was a mess. They made it better over time, okay? The second Witcher was released, and at launch, it was a mess. And over time, they made it into a better game. The Witcher 3 at launch was kind of a janky piece of shit. And over time, it became a better game. Cyberpunk 2077, or CyberJank as I'm calling it, 2077, same thing. You know, it's kind of janky, it's kind of a mess, but you know what? You know, they've had 3 games they released kind of in a messy state, and over time, it got better. This game, over time, will probably get better too. Because that's what, you know, CD Projekt Red does. Their games get better over time. Alright? But let's keep it moving. Cyberpunk, let's see what else. So basically, you know, let's look at Fallout 76, okay? Bethesda Softworks has released 5 Elder Scrolls games, mainline Elder Scrolls games. I'm not talking the spin-offs, like Battlespire and Redguard, okay, and Blades, all right? But 5 mainline games, okay? None of those games in their vanilla state have ever been patched to the point where they are stable, all right? You can put in any CD Projekt Red game and play the entire goddamn game. No mods from start to finish after they have worked on them for, a certain amount of time. Okay? Fallout 76 is still kind of a broken piece of shit. And you know what the worst thing is? Cyberpunk 2077 to this day, Fallout 76 to this day, even now, is still a broken, glitchy mess. Alright? They literally, and here's the thing, what did Bethesda say when Fallout 76 was falling apart? They didn't talk about how they were going to fix the game, make it acceptable. Their big announcement at the beginning of this year was to essentially charge people extra money for shit that should have been with the base game, and to announce their Fallout First, which is $150, and if you do the year subscription, you get $50 off, so it's only $100. This is the shit. So don't talk to me about CD Projekt Red being the absolute worst in the gaming industry, because if you're saying some shit like that, you are clearly being hyperbolic, all right? And not even hyperbolic in a good way, just like this is some bullshit hyperbole, all right? So, I beg to disagree, all right? So with that being said, let's talk about another game that came out that I think launched worse than this game. Have we forgotten Anthem or Fallout or Mass Effect Andromeda? I mean, and EA just gave up on that game. Just gave the fuck up on it. Alright? Gave up on that game entirely. And that game was not ambitious whatsoever in the grand scheme of things. So don't talk to me about, man, this is the worst game ever. It's broken. It's a piece of shit. Really? How you people have forgotten some shit. Just completely slipped your mind. So with that being said, I will get to some real legitimate concerns with the game after the cut. So I'm going to talk about some real problems with the game. Aside from the technical issues, which, I mean, I hate to break this to people, but I mean, that's the law of gaming now. Most games are going to have technical issues. Especially, generally speaking, the larger the scope of game, the more plates that the developer is spinning that have to work in sequence to get shit to work, the more buggy and glitchy the shit's going to be, unfortunately. So with that being said, let's talk about some real issues that this game has. And these are all gameplay issues. I'm not going to get into technical issues because at the end of the day, a game can be technically sound and still be kind of a piece of shit. So, that's not what I would call a, how can I put this? That's not a make or break deal for me. So without much ado, let me tell you some real issues this game has. Number one, you can't change how your character looks after you create your character. Now, I don't know about you, but it's kind of funny that a game that touts its character creation and all that shit doesn't give you the ability to alter how your character looks. Because anyone who has played or watched any cyberpunk series, like, that fucking anime, Ghost in the Shell and Blade Runner, knows that a big thing with those games, with those series, is that people over time change how they look and change their physical, their physical traits and shit over time because technology has reached that point. People, Kusanagi changed how she looked in from what her original physical body was, and everyone is using technology to change how they look. In this game, you literally, once you have how your character looks in the beginning of the game, you're pretty much shit out of luck with changing how your character looks, which is kind of missed opportunity there. Also, you don't actually sit down and eat in this game. I mean, this is cyberpunk. You should be able to sit down at a noodle stand and slurp up some noodles. And here's how fucked up this is. In the beginning of the game, a side character, your friend's, your character's friend, can do this. Can sit down and eat at a noodle shop, chow down, but you can't. I mean, what the fuck, man? Another issue with this game, there is a severe lack of you can't actually look at yourself in third person for small things like, hey, I want to see what I look like when I'm wearing a fucking an outfit. Can't do it. I mean, I know you can't go in third person all the time because it would look janky, and they knew it would look janky, which is why it's in first person. But, I mean, if you're in, a clothing store, you should be able to have a third-person view of what the clothes look like on you before you buy them. Can't do that in this game. I mean, what the fuck? That's a legit concern. The texture pop-in while you're playing the game, where something will pop in and, the textures are late coming to the party. That's an issue. Now, here's the thing, okay? I had the same thing happen to me in Xenoblade Chronicles X. Sorry, not Xenoblade Chronicles X. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where if you were in an area where a lot of shit was going on, it literally would struggle to load shit on everything. In this game, it's not everything, for me, where it's everything here is having difficulty. No, what happens here is that you'll be walking along the street and some characters will be rendered properly and some characters will be a blur. Just a fucking blur. I'm like, what the fuck? Another issue I have with the game, legit issue I have with the game is, basically a lot of features are kind of fed to you piecemeal, which I'm not cool with, at least in the beginning of the game. I kind of have an issue with that. I think that you should be able to remap your inputs on your controller, like you can on your keyboard if you're playing this game with a controller. Because some of it is just kind of stupid. I think you should be able to get into vehicles with the Y button, like you can in almost every other first-person open-world action game. If you want to get into something, you press the triangle button or the Y button if you're using an Xbox controller. Kind of weird that you can't do that in this game. It's the B button to get into and out of vehicles. It's weird, okay? It's fucking weird. The X button to activate something instead of the A button. It's weird, okay? There's just some really weird design choices with this game. But anyway, hopefully they will fix that as time goes on. But those are my legit concerns. My conclusion after the cut. My conclusion is pretty simple. Some of the hyperbolic narrative that we're seeing around this game is, frankly speaking, ridiculous and overblown. And yes, I'm aware that that might be a little too much for some people, but come on. It is like some of the. I mean, I know some people are doing this for views and shit, but it's a tad too much. All right, it's a tad too much. If people only had this level of passion when, you know, when Fallout 76 and fucking, you know, Skyrim came out, those games wouldn't have been in the state they were in, alright? But that's neither here nor there, okay? I think people are just kind of just want a reason to bitch and complain about things at this point. There are some legitimate concerns with the game, like some baffling design choices that I feel just they kind of were trying to get this game as stable as they could for release instead of focusing on some major design choices. And I think that's a problem. But I mean, hopefully, knock on wood, they'll probably fix it as time goes by. Now, like I said, CD Projekt Red has a history of releasing games that have some issues at launch, and then over time they do fix them, which is better than I can say for Bethesda, you know, other developers. Now, to be fair, Ubisoft with The Division did make that game better over time, but that's the exception. That's not the rule. So, yeah. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. You know, share your opinion in the comment section, how you feel about it. Do you agree or disagree, and why? If you would like to get in touch with the channel, you can reach me at mrredfoxbsbuster@gmail.com, or you can tweet me at Twitter at Matthew Wesley at mrredfox91. There's a link to the Discord in the description. So with that being said, that's the end of this video. Have a good day, peace, and good night.